everyone, and welcome. My name is Jeff, and today we are going to have some fun talking about the new Ravnica Allegiance spoilers. And I am so excited for Ravnica Allegiance. I really think it's just going to bring all of what's in standard right now together and be amazing. So these cards are looking to be really awesome. But before we get into those really quick, if you can, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Would really appreciate it. Help support me a ton. So let's go ahead and get into these cards now. So Tithetaker is our very first card here for 2 converted mana costs, 1 and a white. It's a human soldier, and it says during your turn, spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast, and abilities your opponents activate costs 1 more to activate unless they're mana abilities. And then we have the new mechanic, which is Afterlife. Afterlife 1, when this creature dies, create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. So first off, with the mechanic, I'm really excited for this new, I believe it's Orzhov mechanic, that will give us the Afterlife. And creating tokens, I'm guessing because it has the Afterlife 1, we're going to be seeing Afterlife creatures with, Afterlife 4, kind of like how Surveil had that same type of ability. And any creature that can be creating 4 other creatures when it dies is just going to, oh man, I'm so excited for an Abzan, aristocrat style deck. It's just going to be so good. And so I'm really excited for this in general for Afterlife. Also, this card being able to just stop your opponent from doing too much on your turn really helps out. If you get this down on turn 2 against control, it can really kind of tempo them out a little bit. They're not going to be able to hit their Sinister Sabotage until turn 4. They're not going to be able to activate abilities on lands, like if they're playing the tap stuff or anything like that. It's going to cost a lot more for them to do pretty much anything, and so this makes it a whole lot better. So I think Tithetaker is going to see play at least in sideboard. And if you're playing an Afterlife style deck with that mechanic, then it'll definitely be main board here. And I think it's great. I think it's a great card. I mean, even Martyr of Dusk was still seeing lots of play in the Vampire deck, and so Tithetaker definitely going to see play for sure, at least by me. And yeah, let's go ahead and get to the next one. All right, and this is in no particular order, but next up we have Gate Colossus. Gate Colossus is an 8 converted mana cost artifact creature construct, and it says this spell costs 1 less to cast for each gate you control. So we do have some gate synergies coming in. Gate Colossus can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Whenever a gate enters the battlefield under your control, you may put Gate Colossus from your graveyard to the top of your library. So it has recurgence, especially the late game type of thing. I'm not sure the best way to play this, because playing that many gates is still really hard to make this happen. I mean, you can get 4 gates down and play an 8/8 on turn 5. Because you have to wait for them to untap. I really wish there was a gate that just came in untapped, that we can hopefully get something to kind of curve it out a little bit better. But if we have 4 gates, this costs 4 mana for an 8/8. So that is pretty broken. Some really cool things you can do with this. And I did have my gates and walls deck that was pretty good before. So we're going to see if we can do another gate deck once we get going. But this is an exciting one. I'm interested to see what we can do with it. Leave it down in the comments below what you guys think will be best with this deck, with this card. Okay, up next we have what is really going to be bringing a lot of hype with this card. This is Lavina, Azureus, Renegade. 1 white, 1 blue, human soldier, legendary creature for 2/2. And its ability is, I'm not sure if it changes up standard a ton, but modern, legacy, even commander, it's going to be making a splash with this card. So each opponent can't cast non-creature spells with converted mana costs greater than the number of lands that player controls. And then whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. So this immediately just stops Mox Amber is like the main one, at least in standard right now. So that's interesting. But also, each opponent can't cast the non-creature spells with converted mana costs greater than the number of lands the player controls. So in standard, because that's really what we're focusing with in my channel, I think the biggest thing that this will stop is it stops a lot of, I think, like Golgari Planeswalkers and Eldritch Reborns. Like any deck that is still ramping up with Llanowar Elves or anything like that, and plays stuff that isn't just straight creatures, it can kind of tempo those out a little bit. And so I still think there is some play in standard for this. It's probably more of a sideboard card, probably against like the Golgari deck, if that's still a thing. We're not really sure. We haven't seen the Planeswalkers for this set yet. But I think that that's kind of what it's going to stop. I think that this helps make sure that people can't bring down an Eldritch Reborn, or sorry, the Eldritch Reborn too quickly. So yeah, I think this is a really good card in standard. Still, it has some gameplay. It's still, decent stats. 2 mana, 2/2. But definitely going to see tons and tons of play in Modern and Legacy. So if you can, get a hold of it, because I'm guessing this is going to be a pretty expensive card along the way. Yeah, grab a hold of it. All right, up next we have Rafter Demon, 2 red and black. So this way we get to see Spectacle, the mechanic for our Rakdos deck here. And so Spectacle, whenever you cast this spell for its Spectacle cost, you may cast the spell for its Spectacle cost rather than its mana cost if an opponent lost life this turn. So if you make your opponent lose life, then you can start doing cool stuff. So if you have creatures on the battlefield, this is kind of like a really Rakdos thing to be doing, swinging in with some really aggressive creatures, make sure they lose life in some way, shape, or form, and then he can come down and make, and when it enters the battlefield, if it was Spectacle cost was paid, then each opponent discards a card. So I mean, it's a common card, so not super amazing here. I think it'll be seen in limited. I think it's pretty decent, like especially because in limited, once you have the 5 mana, you're typically discarding their big bomb that they're kind of waiting for, and so I definitely think it's going to be picked up and used in limited here and there, but I don't think it'll see any play in standard. All right, next up we have Rix Maadi Reveler, and again with a Spectacle, but this is so good. All right, so 2 converted mana cost, 1 in a red, human shaman. I really want to build a shaman deck still. I don't know how I'm going to make it happen, but I want to. And its Spectacle cost is for 4 mana. You may cast this spell for its Spectacle cost. So yeah, we already read that. Whenever Rix Maadi Reveler enters the battlefield, discard a card, then draw a card. If it was paid for its Spectacle cost was paid, instead discard your hand, then draw 3 cards. So I think that this, I think immediately it's going to take the place of a Flame of Keld, I think, in my mind, where the Flame of Keld was great, to kind of make sure that you're drawing in those cards. You can discard whatever, but this is, I think, just a better way to make sure that you're still drawing some cards there. The Flame of Keld has that third counter on its Saga that really helps out making sure you get more damage through. But this is just for sure you're going to be drawing some cards, getting rid of stuff you don't really want. And so I like the card a lot. I think Rix Maadi Reveler is going to be really well. It's going to be played for sure. All right, next up we have Simic Ascendency, which we have our Simic coming down for 2 converted mana cost, green, blue. It's an enchantment, and you can pay 3 to put a counter onto target creature you control. Yay, great. Probably won't be used that much for that ability. It might help a bit, but whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on a creature you control, put that many growth counters on Simic Ascendency. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Simic Ascendency has 20 or more growth counters on it, you win the game. So this is so awesome. I really like this card. I'm not positive it's going to see tons and tons of play in standard. I think it's going to definitely have those janky. I mean, I'm going to build a janky deck with it for sure, trying to win with counters with the Merfolk deck. It works so well with Cumena, making sure you can tap down all your Merfolk really quick and just put on 5 to 10 counters immediely. And you can, oh man, you can just do so many fun things with this. So I think where this can be played as in actual, if you ever get it into like a top tier type deck, maybe like second level tier, I think that you can play it as a 1 or 2 of in a Merfolk deck, where it actually has some resiliency against board wipes, because you get it down on turn 2, then you start building up your Merfolk board, and then if ever you get hit by board wipes, you at least have another win condition kind of in the background, or you have 10 counters there. And if you, with Merfolk, you obviously can rebuild so quickly, because that's the one thing that Merfolk has proven to be able to do, is just rebuild pretty quickly, and like a lot of times the hardest part is winning after that point, because they typically, the opponent has big enough creatures they can kind of stall you out and then just kind of fly over with some bigger stuff. But I think with Simic Ascendancy you might be able to race them out for that win spot as long as you get it down turn 2, or get it down when you start putting on lots of counters. So I think it'll see some play possibly in standard. I'm not sure about metagame if it's really going to be there that level, but I definitely think it's going to be seeing a lot of play in Commander, a lot of play in just in any jank fun combo deck for sure. The next card we've got here is the Haunt of Hightower. 6 converted mana cost, 4 and 2 black. Legendary creature, vampire. Love the vampires coming in. Flying lifelink, 3/3. Whenever Haunt of Hightower attacks, defending player discards a card. Whenever a card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, put a +1/+1 counter on the Haunt of Hightower. This can be super, super insane. The biggest downside, which I think is necessary because this can get, I think, a little too insane, is that it is a 3/3 when it first comes down. So it can be removed by just about anything in the format right away. At the same time, though, I mean, whenever you swing in, you're making the opponent discard a card. So that card goes into the graveyard, it gets a counter. So it's swinging in for 4 immediately. And then if you ever kill anything on their side of the board, you're immediately just making this so big. And this is a card from anywhere it goes into the graveyard. So I mean, if this is something that, you know, a land that gets destroyed or anything that goes into the graveyard, you're getting a counter. So Haunt of Hightower, very, very interesting card. I'm not sure how much it'll see play in Standard again, but Commander, this is going to be a super fun card. There's a lot of places where this is an amazing card. Sorry if you guys hear the crying baby in the background. I am recording this at home, but let's go ahead and get into the next card here. All right, so next up is Rakdos Firewheeler, and this is the 2 black, you know, the Rakdos version of the 2 black, 2 red creatures that we keep getting, and I love these cards. These are fun. I wish I could do a 5-color deck with all of them, but that would just not work at all. But anyway, when Rakdos Firewheeler enters the battlefield, it does 2 damage to target opponent, and then 2 damage to up to 1 target creature or planeswalker. So I think this can see play. Again, what we've seen with these cards already is that even though we do have really decent mana right now, these cards are okay. They're really great in limited, so definitely going to be seeing a lot of play in limited, but not exactly sure if it's going to see a ton of play outside of that. I think that you might see 1 or 2 of them kind of budget decks or anything like that. I think it's a powerful card, and it's worth playing in these budget decks if you don't have better stuff for it. But other than that, it's a cool card. It's fun. I like it, and it looks really cool. All right, next up, I am super excited for this common card, which is Growth Spiral, green and a blue, instant speed, draw a card, you may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. Simple, easy, but man, this thing I think is really going to break the format a little bit here, because first off, you get to draw a card first, which anytime you've had stuff like this before, you can play an additional land, anything like that, which you can, but this is instant speed, so on your opponent's turn, you can draw a card, put a land down really quick, and I mean, if you're playing, I really think this is going to see a lot of play in like a bank control type of deck, or something where you're trying to draw cards, kind of, you can still put a land down to try to hit your Teferi earlier, and then also you can that land comes in untapped, and so you can still counter whatever it is they were playing. So I think Growth Spiral is definitely going to be seeing a lot of play in quite a few decks. I think even just like I think a Simic Stompy deck is very legitimate in this format, and I think that this will help that out as well. So I'm a big fan of Growth Spiral. We'll see exactly how it's played in Standard, but definitely going to see some play. Next up, we have Mortify, which is a 1 white and a black instant, destroy target creature or enchantment. And I like this. I think it's going to see play for sure. I think there are quite a few enchantments that are still definitely around. I mean, especially in white removal, we have, you know, Conclave Tribunal, a lot of things that we can just get back with the Mortify, especially against control, and they're playing a lot of those, you know, enchantment style removal. You can get back your stuff, but you still have removal for creatures against any aggro deck or anything. And so this is a great card. Definitely, you obviously have to stay in the Orzhov colors, but definitely going to see play. I really like it. All right, for the last card, and I think this is probably the best card that we've seen so far, is Light Up the Stage. It's 2 and a red, sorcery with Spectacle, which is, again, the Rakdos mechanic here. Spectacle of just 1 red, you exile the top 2 cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play those cards. And so this is until the end of your next turn, so you get to untap again with these 2 extra cards in hand. So basically, and you do have have to do damage. Again, with Spectacle, you have to make your opponent lose life on that turn to play Spectacle. It is at sorcery speed, but you get to pay 1 red mana, have 2 more cards in hand, and this is just insane. Super, super insane. And you can play these cards too, so even if you're digging for land, you can play it. So I think that this has a lot of potential. It's kind of, I think it's the replacement for the Flame of Keld. I think Flame of Keld was a good card in those red aggro decks where you're needing to draw into stuff. The last Saga was great, but at the same time, it just, I feel like whenever you ran into 2 Flame of Kelds in your hand, you just had a dead card. Where I don't think that Light Up the Stage is ever a dead card in your hand. You can use it to combo off late game. You don't even have to make them lose life, because you can just pay the 3, draw the cards, maybe play a land and burn them really quick. Or you can, just hold on to whatever you got, wait till the next turn, and start burning in for the next turn. So I think there's a lot of potential with this card. I think it's amazing. Light Up the Stage, going to see a lot of play, I think, in probably every format, because it's just good. It really is good for any kind of burn deck, for sure. Any kind of red deck in general. Definitely a great way to be drawing cards. So I like it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below if you guys like this, as well as any of the cards that we talked about so far today. Do you guys think that any of these are just straight up broken, going to change formats? I think we've seen a lot of talk already about this stuff. And anyway, I hope you guys enjoy the video. If you did, please leave a like. Again, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much, and bye-bye.